Welcome to the Pastured Pig Podcast, where we share the successes and challenges of raising pigs on pasture. We talk to producers all over the country, from small homesteads to large commercial pasture operations. Whether you're new to pastured pigs or have been raising hogs for decades, we hope you hear new ideas and new perspectives on pasturing hogs. Here's your host, Troy McClung.
Well, hello, everybody. As promised, here's number 4. And so far, so good. If you're listening to this, then it means it uploaded. So that means I got 4 podcasts done in one day. And yes, if you listen to these in sequence, the ham is still smoking. The ham that I started on December 15th is still smoking. No, 4 episodes with the bumpers recorded, one right after the other. So for you all, it seemed like 4 weeks. For me, it's just been an hour or so. Okay, so today we're doing another revisit, and I wanted to come back and talk with Kyle because of his on-farm processing, what he's got going on there. We spoke to him, I think, back in episode 98, 93, back in the 90s, I believe. And Kyle was telling us how he's getting started with his on-farm processing, and now kind of giving an update there. And I love how he's growing based upon his work. So he's not going headfirst into debt and getting upside down in a bunch of stuff as he gets the work, and he grows as he can afford to grow. And man, I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. But I'll let him tell his story, and we'll catch you guys on the tail end. And today we're doing a revisit. We're going back up to New Hampshire, and we're going to talk with Kyle Perreault of The Ranch and his on-farm processing facility called The Body Shop. Welcome, Kyle.
What is going on, Troy? Happy to be back.
All right, man. Yeah, good to have you back on there. So going back through my notes, it looks like it was almost a year to the date that we recorded. I think we recorded November 10th of 22. And as we're recording this, it's November the 21st, 22. As listeners, it'll be much later when the listeners hear this. But so it's been a year. What has transpired for you in a year? Not much going on up there in the last 12 months?
No. So everything has completely changed. Everything's grown. It's insane. I don't know how I'm conscious most of the time, right. But we made it.
Well, awesome. Well, for those of you listening, if you're stumbling across this episode and you haven't listened to every single episode in order, then shame on you. But no, Kyle was featured in episode 98. That was published, I believe, last February. So if you want to go back and listen to that, you don't necessarily have to go back and listen to it first, but if you want to know some of the details, we're not going to go back into all the details we covered in the first episode. What we want to do is, these are those update episodes that I've talked to you guys about, where it's fun to come back and see what has happened within, I'd like to do at least 12 months. So here we're at the 12-month mark with Kyle. So Kyle, first of all, let's talk about pigs, because obviously you got the on-farm process, and we can talk about that in a bit. But let's talk about pigs. So if you could refresh our listeners as to where you were a year ago with pigs and where you are now.
So a year ago, I started my first year of pigs with 9 pigs. I had never raised pigs. The only time I'd ever been around pigs was putting them through the slaughter floor, like at work. So we're getting into it. If we're starting our own process facility, we might as well raise pork, because why not? Just makes sense. And that jumped from like 2 or 3 pigs for the family and whatever to we had 9 pigs between Herefords and Yorkshires last year. And with plans for a breeding program after the fact. So we processed 7 of those pigs, some for us, some for friends, family, stuff like that, and kept 2 of our gilts and raised them up a little further and got our hands on a beautiful boar. He was Osba Mangalitsa Cross, and we started the breeding program I kind of talked about the last time we were here. I drove all the way to Vermont to I think I drove about 3.5 hours to pick him up. And we did get a litter from him. So it's exciting. So now we're sitting on 16 pigs at the moment between breeders, feeders, and piglets.
Yeah. Good deal. So that cross is help me remember. Is that the cross you started with, or is that something that you were looking into?
that's what I was looking to do.
Yeah, thought so.
Again, I kind of jumped into pigs head first and was already planning everything ahead. I wanted to basically breed a pig that was heavy production, but also did really well in these colder environments up here. Because it's, again, we're in the 20s already every night. It's tough to grow animals out over a cold winter because half the year you're just feeding to keep weight on them. So we took the Herefords, which are an amazing production breed pig. They're like friggin' bulldogs, and bred it to the Ossabaw Mangalitsa cross, with the Mangalitsa bringing a hairier coat and stuff like that, and the Ossabaw with the fat quality, and just the fact that Ossabaws are essentially a feral pig that's just gotten very recently re-domesticated. And put back into the cycle where it's their immune system is fantastic. They transfer food so much better. So I wanted to kind of put that into a more production breed, and the result has been fantastic. We had 10 surviving piglets for that litter. She had 14, but we lost a couple, 2 stillborn and one just run. But they're about 5 months old now, and they are absolute tanks. Like, everything we were looking for is perfect. We have the majority of them are built like Herefords, so they have very broad shoulders and hams. But you look at them, and it's like, all right, they've already got about an inch of hair on them, and you can tell by them. It's like, oh, you're a different fat. Like, you have a different fat quality. I mean, I can tell just because I'm a butcher and have been a butcher for over a decade. So it's like, I can look at that and go, all right, that's a little bit different. So we're so happy with them, but we'll be carrying them over the winter. So this will be our real test to see if this worked.
So what do you think with that combo? What do you think your finish time is going to be?
I'm shooting for, it's going to be about 9-10 months.
Okay. Well, that's not
I
bad.
Already know. Huh?
I mean, that's not bad with mango.
It's not awful.
Yeah.
It's not awful. I didn't know back in the last episode a good answer to that question, because I'm pretty sure you asked me that then, and I was like, maybe a year. I don't know.
Right.
But again, I'm looking at him now at 5 months, and I'm like, oh, you're right on track. Like, there's a couple of them that are smaller. Like, there's a couple of them that are absolutely Ossabaw. Like, I can just look at them and go, and it's the way the colorations came out from them is absolutely insane, because a lot of them had the Mangalitsa striping when they were born. A lot of them have the Hereford color patterns with like black and brown. We had some that had the Hereford color patterns, which if people don't know, they're a white pig with red spots, and they're all fairly uniform on the body. So we had some of those, but they were born, the coloration in them was the Mangalitsa tiger stripe, and the rest of the pig was white. They were crazy. But yeah, the way the genetics work and all the different piglets is pretty crazy. And we did end up keeping a boar out of that group.
Okay. So that was the next thing I was going to ask you. Are you going to go Gen 3 and breed that, or are you just going to keep at this hybrid level you're at now?
Yeah, we're going to go Gen 3. Unfortunately, we lost our boar. He was an absolute sweetheart, and I am very guilty of the fact that he was pretty chunky too. The hard part with those Ossabaws and Mangalitsas, they pack on weight like crazy. They're a very feast or famine type of animal. They save their fat for those situations where they're not going to eat for a long time. And it was the middle of summer. I had just built a new paddock. I hadn't established a wallow yet, and he was a big black pig. There was enough tree cover and stuff like that, but it was a combination of heat, and I did a necropsy after the fact, and he was very impacted, and it was just not a good situation. I think it was it's a chicken and the egg, or chicken before the egg situation of what brought him down, but overall they both did.
Yeah. All right. So you've got a boar, which would be his first generation son, right? So it would be.
Yes. Okay. So they are the piglets we have right now are half Hereford, quarter Ospa, quarter Mangalitsa.
Gotcha.
So my plan is to pick up 2 more Hereford gilts in the spring, raise them up with whatever piglets we get this year, and breed them out next year, because at that point our boar will be a year and a half. So hopefully he'll be somewhere close to the point that we can start the program back up again.
Yeah. He should be. He should be
right along.
He should be pitching fairly soon, shouldn't he?
Yeah, he should.
Yeah, he's probably already warming up in the bullpen.
Or the funniest part is all the ones that are cut are the ones that are getting after it. He's just running around looking at them.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, that's about the way it goes. Yeah, crazy. Well, excellent. So that sounds. So, is this something with that 10-month grow out? Then, if your ideal situation is to what would that be, to farrow late winter and then carry over? Or are you thinking that you really want to finish out in the spring, so you're going to farrow a little bit later in the spring?
We're going to be finishing out in the spring.
Okay.
So again, it all got screwed up when the boar passed, and like we had to rethink everything, because right now I don't have a boar lined up for our sow now. I'm trying to figure out what we're doing with that. If I just want to bite the bullet and try to find a production boar to just have piglets for the spring, or go with something like a Mangalitsa that will be able to kind of keep it together. So again, I would like to try to get a litter usually mid-spring, and then possibly another one like going into the winter a little bit, to be able to just kind of double that up.
Yeah.
So because I think the last podcast, all I had was my 1.5 acre pasture for the pigs.
Yeah.
Now I have, math is not my strong suit, probably have about 7 for them now.
Oh, wow. Excellent.
Between the original paddock, there's a 3.5 acre paddock behind that now, that they've been able, our feeders this year were able to just tear everything up and go through it. And I am so excited to see how that pasture looks next year. And we've transitioned our beef winter area into a grow out pen for all our piglets.
Yeah, because you've gotten out of the beef.
We are out of beef,
yeah.
at least for a while. For where we live, it's just tough.
Yeah.
It's tough financially to raise a cow for 20 plus months, which is what you have to raise a cow to get to production size in New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. I think like the 19-month-old steer I just put in, he dressed out at just under 600 pounds, which it was absolutely beautiful meat, and we are so happy for it. But again, that was 19 months of, all right, I would have liked a little more.
yeah, because your 19 months are what is it? I mean, that's, you got 6 months a year of no growth on the ground, right? Pretty much.
Yeah. And that's really what it came down to. I'm like, I can't afford pig feed and hay.
Yeah, that adds
I can't.
Up. That adds up. 6 months.
It adds up. And then I looked at just the chore load, like, of going through winter, because that's the worst part. Like, financial, it is what it is. You can make more money. Putting hay bales in, or like putting round bales in the winter with the tractor, where you're just spinning on ice because the tractor's imbalanced. Like, it's, and just maintaining the area you have to have for all the hay. It's not worth it. I'm like, all right, now all of my stuff is right here, right at the house. I don't have to worry about anything. I can just walk to everywhere I need to go. The most I'll ever need is to put something in the back of the truck to bring it over.
Yeah. And that, my goodness, that goes a long way. And obviously I can't speak into your winters, but just the issue of having to tend an animal that's further away, and you guys of course have to clear a lot of snow, but like you said, the situation of the scale of the animal, the bigger the animal is, the bigger its daily intake is. So that round bale that's got to be put out so many days, and then cow drinks how many gallons does a cow drink a day? Is something, was it
too much?
Yeah, it's 50 pounds of manure they create. I couldn't remember how much water, but it's an insane
amount. And it's just tough. It really is. It's just tough.
Yeah.
And then there's just the frustrating moments of it where it's like the paddock that the piglets are in now was the winter cow paddock. It has a nice shelter in there. It's probably 2.5 acres, like if not a little bit bigger. And over the winter, there would be a line from the shelter to the water to the hay ring, and it was a small triangle, and that was it.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are we doing? Like, and then last year, what I ended up doing is putting the round bale feeder at the very end of the paddock, so I'd be able to actually like get the tractor in with the hay spike to be able to just drop it.
Right.
Because before I was having to push everything in through the barn, and it was like, this is awful.
Wow. Yeah, that's just one of those things that all that just comes with experience. In your mind, you see it all laid out, and then you have that first either really bad winter or that really hot summer or something like that, and it's like, wow, okay, here's where I need to adjust, need to make those adjustments in what we're doing, and then next year make sure we're not in the same situation. Like I say the same thing, and about February, I'm like, I'm going to spend $10,000 on gravel because I'm just sick and tired of West Virginia mud. And then, it dries out and you go around here. We go.
This isn't that bad.
Yeah. 6, 7, 8 months. It's like, yeah, okay. A little bit of mud here. That's not that big a deal. And I'll be doing the same thing this February. I'll be like,
same thing.
I wish I'd have bought the gravel. Yeah. So, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. But for the moment, we're taking a break. I'm not going to say I'll never do it again. But there's going to be a lot of infrastructure before that happens.
Well, yeah,
sure.
I like the way you're kind of doubling down and just kind of figuring out what the ranch looks like right now. If the ranch looks like it's going to be pigs primarily, and something you can handle, and with the on-farm processing, you got the business, you got a good breed line, you're excited to work with, then yeah, man, go with what's working for you. Don't try to square peg fit in a round hole. Yeah, absolutely. So, it sounds like you're scaling up, obviously. So with that and your on-farm processing, just hit the 40,000 foot elevation of your on-farm processing and what you're doing, and a little bit of that background. I think if people know, if they went back and listened, they know that you've got that butchering experience, worked for USDA, all that type of stuff, and bringing that on farm was kind of like a value-added service, not only for yourself but for friends and family initially. But that's scaling up too, right?
Yeah, so I am in April. It will be 2 years of me running my custom exempt slaughter facility on our property. We process beef, pork, lamb, goats, wild game, pretty much anything you bring me. I'll process it, put it in cryovac bags. But it'll be our second full year of it, and it's just growing. Like, that's the best thing I can say about it. I am booked out until this January, and I will be probably booked out the next 3 months after that. And it's growing the way I'd like, but also at the same time at the scale I need to be to still be home. I have 2 kids under 5. And then also running the farm primarily solo. My wife does what she can, but a lot of it is all come out of my Jekyll and Hyde brain. So she's like, I don't even want to touch it. But yeah, so it has been an amazing asset for sure. For, again, not just being able to, and again, with being a custom exempt process facility, the way the laws work with it is I can only process somebody else's product for them. And there are ways to make that work. We're just no one can see the head nod, but we made it work.
Sure.
Because, and it's, again, I don't know why I'm being funny about it, but it's the same scenario as buying holes or halves from anybody else.
Yeah,
I just happen to have it on my property.
Yeah, it just comes down to a technicality, and almost becomes semantics at that point, because
it absolutely becomes semantic. The way I explain it is, you get 2 receipts.
Yeah, you
get a receipt from me for the pig that you bought,
right,
and then you get a receipt from me from the processing I did to the pig you bought.
Exactly. Yeah, because it's no different than me selling a whole to somebody and saying, okay, you've bought this pig. Now I'm going to do you a solid, and I'm going to take that pig to the local custom exempt processor.
Exactly.
and they're going to process it to your specifications, and you pick it up and pay for it. It is no different, like you said. You just your transport, instead of getting them on a trailer and taking them somewhere else, you just
over there.
Yeah, exactly. Walking them across the yards.
You want to know the worst part about it, though? It irks me every time I walk out to the shop. So Maine is literally 500 yards this way, and in Maine, they have now changed their cottage industry laws to the point they don't have cottage industry laws.
Yeah.
So somebody can go who's never been around a pig before, can go buy a pig with no knowledge on how to raise a pig, raise that pig, and then having no knowledge how to process a pig, process that pig, and put it in Ziploc bags in the freezer, and they can sell cuts without being USDA.
Really? Okay. But they can't sell
and that is
state.
Right there.
Yeah.
It is 500 yards down the road, and my shop is about 550 yards from the border.
Right. Yeah, for sure. That's crazy. Now, can they sell across state line? They can't sell over into New Hampshire, can they? Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Don't get me started about Maine. We were up there in September, and this is a story about Maine's crazy laws, not about processing. But I'm up there in a little town called Damariscotta, and decided, hey, there's a neat looking old school, looks like an old school smoke shop, and I like a good old fashioned tobacco pipe, like our grandpas used to smoke.
Oh, of course.
So I go in there, and it was the craziest experience. I walk in, and it's a head shop, and I am by no means deadhead or anything like that, but it's a full blown head shop, and I'm like, oh. Yeah, and the guy comes out and says, "Can I help you?" I'm like, "Man, I'm sorry. I obviously came to the wrong store. I was looking for just looking for a tobacco pipe and that type of stuff." And he's like, "Oh," he said, in Maine, it's illegal to sell any flavored tobacco. So any of the aromatics, anything like that, they can't sell it because it's illegal." He said, but I can sell you some weed." It's like, well, okay.
It's so insane.
This is so weird. But what was hilarious, I probably shouldn't have said the name of the town, but then the dude tells me, he's like, "Now sometimes I get some aromatics in here, so
sometimes
I can,
wink, nudge, nudge.
At the back door, I can sell you some." And I'm like, "What kind of world do I live in where
that you're buying tobacco illegally?"
I go into a weed shop to peddle out of the back door aromatic tobaccos. I'm like, "What? This world is nuts." But yeah, Maine's got some weird things going on over there. That's for sure.
But that's what the cottage industry one is. One, I'm like, I am fully supportive of this. I support this 110%. Just do it here.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. In West Virginia, they've changed the cottage industry laws pretty extensively, but they've yet to come in to dairy and meat yet. So it's still just kind of hanging out on all those non-perishable stuff. But yeah, I agree.
It's one of those situations I'll talk to people about it, and they go, "Oh, that's weird," and I go, "No, you don't understand. That's not weird. That is literally life-changing for my business if we had that law."
Yeah. Yeah, and then it's, again, the question of food safety. Is that really what it's all about? Because I can process up to 1,000 chickens on my farm.
Yeah.
Bag them, cut them into parts, all that stuff, and sell them retail all day long. And
when it comes down to it, it's the corporations.
Yeah.
It is and will always be down to corporations.
It has absolutely nothing to do with food safety.
We have very relaxed laws in New Hampshire. Like, they're like, yeah, just don't do this. Yeah. But whatever. I had a buddy in Texas who was trying to open a custom exempt shop. They shut him down immediately. Wow. So then he had to open a educational butcher class where you would hire him to come out to your farm and teach you how to cut up an ant. Like, right. It's so convoluted. Right. And it's like, oh, if it's done custom exempt, it has to be skun out inside. And it's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You have to skin out this beef inside, which again, that's USDA as well.
Right.
But it's like a USDA facility is set up for that. They're going into that going, okay, cool. We're going to do this inside to be USDA. If you look at a custom exempt guy and go, yeah, you have to cut that cow that hangs at 1,000 pounds in your shop when you're used to doing pigs and like whatever. It's like, what are you talking about? I still do all my stuff off a tractor because we don't have that infrastructure yet.
Sure, yeah.
So it's interesting all over.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what just blows my mind about somehow when you take something outside and process it. I mean, Joel Salatin helped fight a lot of this stuff when it came to chicken processing, that they wanted to
Oh,
show
of
that
course.
your outdoor processing is dirtier than our indoor processing because we're using all these, ammonia and bleach and all this heavy stuff. And it's like, no, you guys are creating more potential for things than us
Of
just being
course.
outside. Yeah. So it's crazy.
I actually got to meet him like 2 months ago
Yeah.
at a
Cool.
festival in Tennessee. It was pretty cool. Pretty
Yeah.
cool to meet him.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. I've been able. He and a friend of mine went to college together, so I've been able
Oh,
to
that's
exploit
pretty
that
cool.
connection to talk to him personally before. And yeah, really neat guy, and has done a lot for the food industry, and
Mm.
kind of stuck his neck out several times on some things.
Oh,
And
of course. I meant to get into all of those deep conversations with him when I met him, and I was way too busy fangirling out
yeah,
and not being able to talk.
yeah,
That's I am so
yeah, for
I
sure.
am so embarrassed on how I acted in front of Joel Salatin.
Yeah.
Full fangirl.
Right. Yeah. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, in our niche, our genre of what we like to do, that
Oh
definitely
yeah.
is. Yeah, he's the all star of what we do. So it is a treat to be able to sit and talk with him for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Good stuff. All right, so scaling up, you're processing. You're still a one man show, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I do everything bullet to freezer.
Yeah.
So I've scaled up as much as I can. And by saying that, I mean I have somewhat perfected my rhythm and how I do things to the point where I can usually get done a beef plus a week by myself. Whether that's doing a half a day, doing a whole cow a day, doing a couple pigs this day, and then just bouncing stuff around. My schedule's all over the place. I don't even know what a schedule is anymore,
Right.
just because of how we have it all set up. But yeah, we're busting it out.
Yeah.
Like I've had a crazy year
That's
of
great.
work, which has been super fun.
Yeah.
And getting those connections and everything like that. I had somebody come up the other day. We were standing in the driveway, and there were just every third car, the horn honked and waved or whatever. And they're like, what? And I'm like, I am the butcher in town.
Right.
I am the celebrity. Like in a town of 1,200 people, people know who I am
Yeah.
now,
Sure.
which is crazy.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I mean, and I think there's a lot of wisdom to what you're talking about, and that's understanding your limitations as a one man show, and not
Right.
over promise and undeliver. I mean, that's a mistake a lot of small businesses and startup businesses do. They just say, "Well, I can't turn business
It's
away."
mistakes I made.
Yeah,
I am absolutely guilty of it. And
yeah,
that's why I am doing my best not to.
yeah.
I say that. I have 5 pigs coming in on Monday. Like,
Right.
so I'm talking all high and mighty on this podcast, but I haven't learned anything.
So, well, that's what they say. How do you eat a 900-pound elephant? Yeah, one bite at a
One
time.
bite at a time.
So, are you going to? Do you put all those down at the same time and hang them, and then just as they're hanging, just work one at a time on them? How do you do
Yeah,
a process like that?
I go usually I'll try to get someone to help on pig days like that, like just because they're pigs. Like I have a pretty good setup now with a squeeze gate and that kind of thing to do pigs very easily, but it's still easier with 2 people. And I always hate having people come help because I literally like you may be here for 5 hours while I slaughter these 5 pigs. I can promise you, you will not work more than 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Like that. Like, I don't need your help to do this. I need your help to do it. Like, if that makes sense. Like, I don't need your help in the actual processing part. I need you to hold this hook. I
right.
need you to hold this rope so I don't have to get back down off the tractor.
Exactly.
Like, I need that extra inch of somebody pushing on the hook to get it up over the bar and the cooler. So I always feel awful asking people to help, but they're like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I usually try to pull the people who haven't helped me before because they don't realize how much it sucks. But yeah, so we're gonna keep it a one man show for a bit just because good luck hiring anybody.
Yeah.
And honestly, I can't really afford it at the moment anyway.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Don't get me started. Our USDA processor, brand new one, a year ago was just top notch. Is I'm starting to see the chinks in the armor because they just can't keep people on payroll. So,
well, I always say it's insanely hard. Like, because I always look at the person and I turn the mirror back on myself. I'm like, we're cold constantly. We're covered in blood. On my side of it, where I'm going to people's farms and like essentially, like not essentially, sometimes wrestling their animals. Like, it's not a super fun job.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're like a little nuts in the head, like I am, like that you enjoy it, and which I do. I will never do anything else in my life because I'm a crazy person and I just love this life. But to talk somebody cold, like walking up to someone like in a job fair setting and be like, "Do I have the job for you?"
Exactly.
Yeah, it's non-existent. Like and when people hear about it, they go, "That's going to be so freaking cool. I can't wait to do that." And then they realize how cold they can get. Then they realize like the limitations to their strength, like just all the work that goes into it. You're not going to be doing like, you're not going to be cutting on a hanging beef in a shop, depending on the shop, for like 6 months. Like, you're going to be trimming, you're going to be doing stew,
Right.
You're going to be cryovacking.
Yeah.
Like, it might be 2 months before you get your hand on a knife.
Right.
But that's the hard part about it is I don't need a cutter. I'm fine. I need someone on that cryovac machine so I don't have to spend another 3 hours after the fact packaging everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I can imagine there's a finite amount of unskilled labor that you can have in your setup, and then that unskilled labor, like I said, would be extremely repetitive. Yeah, like I said, just tying off bags, sealing bags, doing that type of stuff, keeping stuff out of the way, keeping stuff clean while you get down and do the work from point A to point B, and that requires all the skill, knowing how to cut. Yeah, I mean, goodness, the small amount of butchering I've done.
That's why I'm raising employees.
Yeah,
I've had my daughter out there for almost every deer we've got in this year. She's got her little butter knife and she sits there. I looked at her this year and I'm filling out the cut sheet with the customer. The deer's laying on the cradle with its arms out like this. And how I cut off deer legs is I hit the joint with the knife and then I just snap it over my knee and then finish the cut.
Yeah.
Easiest way to do it. It just is. She's watched me do so many deer that I look over and she's not tall enough to get her knee to the leg, obviously. So she has her knee up in the Captain Morgan position, just with both hands slamming. It was the joint. She was nailing it right on the joint. But she was sitting there and just slamming it against her leg. And I could just see in her face just not being able to understand. Like, I don't get it. I'm supposed to hit this off my leg and it's supposed to snap off like a toothpick. Right. I don't understand.
Right. It's not
so but both my girls have been on kill floor since they were 3 weeks old.
Yeah.
So none of this is all just secondhand.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. This will be in their blood for sure.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, cool. I do want to ask you one more question about processing, and we'll move on a little bit. So,
of course.
So with expansion staying, okay, keep your customer load the way you expect it, obviously one-man team, but what is that one piece of equipment or infrastructure improvement you'd like to make? If you could wave that wand, what would you add tomorrow if Santa Claus brought you something that you wanted?
A lean-to over my slaughter floor. So we did get a slaughter floor installed. It's a 20 by 20 concrete slab with a drain to a dry well. And I can't even explain how much it has changed my life to have that done and to have the surrounding area leveled off. Like, I have like a driveway back there now where I'm able to turn around the tractor. That's level. That's not mud. Yeah. It's changed my absolute life, but it's still completely open. I'm still doing everything off the bucket of the tractor, which gets dicey. So yeah, the lean-to would be my number one to get that in. I'd love to get it in next spring.
Yeah.
I definitely want to get it in before next hunting season. Yeah. Because right now I'm doing all my deer off the winch in the shop, and that sucks. Because deer hair is just Velcro, and it just sticks on everything. And Yeah. So that would absolutely be my number one, to get that set up, to have a nice spot. Because again, it's all open. So if I have a slaughter on a day, it's pouring rain. Guess what?
Yeah.
I'm slaughtering in the pouring rain.
Yeah.
There's no way about it. Like, this cow's not going to go anywhere. It's got to be done.
Right.
So I've had a couple real wet days where I've just come in and my wife's looked at me like, I'm not even going to talk to you. Go take a shower. Because I'm just soaked and covered in blood. It looks like a horror movie.
Right. Yeah, my goodness. Yeah, little infrastructure things like that can go a long way and really make you appreciate the work that you put into it. But yeah, it sounds to me like you're probably doing your own infrastructure improvements as well.
Yeah, we're doing all. I mean, between me doing a lot of it and my neighbors, who own a construction and concrete company, they're amazing. They're the best neighbors anyone could ever ask for. They've poured the slab and did all the dirt work and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's us, and we're paying as we go, trying to get everything figured out. And again, it pays for itself. It pays for itself very quickly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But it still needs to get paid.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as soon as you have that 50-degree day and rainy, you're gonna be like, man, I really love this lean-to.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, I can't wait. I can't. But not even just the rainy days. When it's 95 degrees out in the summer on a dark concrete pad, slaughtering a cow, that gets rough. That gets real rough.
Yeah, I bet.
Especially on the second cow of that day.
Right. For sure. Oh, well, good, man. I'm anxious to hear how that comes along next year as you expand some of your infrastructure there and make things hopefully a little easier for you. Well,
no, for sure.
Well, let me ask you this, because you've also, in this last year or so, you kind of stuck your toe into some social media, kind of telling your story as to what you've got going on here. Because I think what you have is very unique, and I think that a lot of people would benefit from hearing and seeing what you got. So tell me what you're doing online now.
So because I didn't have enough between the farm, the shop, the two kids under 5, I also started a YouTube channel, a podcast, and a TikTok account, all right around the same time.
Excellent.
And thankfully, I got in with a good group of people who already had established podcasts, and they've talked me through a lot. And because of that, what do I have right now? I think I started about 7-8 months ago. I have over 500 subscribers on YouTube from all of my farm and butchering content. My podcast gets about, it's so new. We just did our 30th episode. We get between 40 and 60 downloads on some of them. I'm like, that's pretty great.
Yep. Yeah.
And then TikTok, we're very quickly approaching 1,200 subscribers on that. And that's only been 2.5 months of doing that.
Yeah, TikTok is definitely, I can't imagine there's a lot of people doing what you're doing on TikTok. So that's
no.
Sticking your toe into.
And I walk the line, sir. Oh boy, TikTok wants to ban me for sure.
I bet. Yeah. So what kind of stuff are you doing on your podcast and on your YouTube channel? Is it day in the life of? Is it specific stuff? Are you having guests on your podcast?
So on the podcast, which you were very nice to come on, and I appreciate that.
Yeah,
one of my very early episodes, I think you were 11.
Oh, okay.
So I appreciate that. It's a kind of farming butchering podcast where I bring on either producers, farmers, homesteaders, butchers. Essentially, if you grow something to eat it or process something to eat, we'll have you on and just kind of talk about what you got going on. Talk about what you're raising, why you're raising it, the history of that you've had with it. And when I have butchers on, that one turns into a therapy. Those ones usually turn into a therapy session pretty quick, because it's just all the stuff that nobody else understands. But when you get 3 butchers on a podcast, we're just yelling and screaming about things that nobody gets. Right. But people love those episodes because it's what are you talking about? I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, that's great.
But we've been having fun with it. Like I said, we just had our 30th episode, and we're just going to keep it rolling.
Yeah, awesome. What's the name of the podcast?
Kind of turn it into something that hopefully turns into a pretty decent thing.
Yeah. So what's the name of the podcast?
The podcast is called Meet the Critters, MEAT. It's taken many evolutions in this 30 episodes, but I think we're sticking with what we got right now.
Yeah. And I'm going to post a link down in the show notes. You guys can check that out. I assume you're on all the
We're
channels.
on. We go live on YouTube every Saturday, 8 Eastern Standard Time, and then we're on Spotify, Apple, Google. We're also on Fountain. So we're on everything you can find podcasts on, which is insane.
Yeah. So what are you doing on YouTube, and how are you dancing around that when it comes to animal slaughter and all that type of stuff?
YouTube has also been interesting. Again, there's been many evolutions. Where we kind of are right now, we're getting out at least 1 to 2 videos a week, and it's spread out between butchering tutorials, breakdowns, slaughters, off the hook breakdowns of beef, pork, lamb, venison, black bear. Like, if it comes through my shop, more than likely it will be on film, and I'll tell you how to cut it up. It's very long form content. I think my shortest YouTube video is about maybe 12 minutes, the longest being like an hour or two. Because I'm fairly thorough with what I'm talking about. A bunch of my buddies who, again, have got me, they were the ones who finally like gave me the final push to get going. And then all of a sudden I started putting out content, and they're like, dude, why were you ever worried about anything? Like, screw you. You're blowing past us on some of this stuff. But we're having fun with it. And then along with, I filmed my entire pasture project this year. I try to do every major project I do on the farm. We try to get it on film and talk about why I'm doing it this way, how I'm doing it, tips, tricks, stuff like that I've learned over time. And again, I start every one with, or at some point in those big videos where it's like, all right, here's a lot of information packed into this video. In the middle of it, I'll usually go, by the way, I'm not telling you this is the exact way to do this. I'm telling you this is why I'm doing this, and for my personal reason. Don't go in the comments and go, you're an idiot for doing it this way. You can if you want. I don't care. But this is how I came to this conclusion. This is why I think it's going to work. If it doesn't work, come back in 6 months. More than likely, they'll show you it didn't work.
Being transparent on that, I think that's huge. That goes a long way, and people can see that genuine approach to what you're doing. So good deal. And
I was joking around with someone about it, and I think a lot of it came from the need to talk. I'm a very chatty person. I'll talk to anybody about anything. And being in the meat industry for 13 years, I am so used to just standing in one spot, staring at a white bench and a piece of meat, talking to somebody over here or over here for 9 hours a day, because that's what you do.
Right.
Is you just stand, cut, and talk. To now being alone in my own shop, just talking to nobody. We'll grab this right now. My bosses, all my coworkers, when I left the USDA facility, gave me a Wilson.
Oh.
Nobody can see this on the audio, but they put a handprint on a volleyball, and they all signed it. Congratulations and everything. But they're like, now you have somebody to talk to in the shop.
That's hilarious. Yep. Very good. Well, that's cool, man. That's great. Well, so I want to be sensitive to your time, and we're getting close to hitting that mark. But so what is next, other than surviving this winter without a lean-to over the kill floor and some of the other things? What do you think's next? If I'd come back to you next November and have a conversation again, what do you hope to see done or accomplished, or any changes there?
So farm-wise, we're going to be definitely investing in some bulk feed storage for sure. We're not there yet, but we need to be. We're at that stage. So that's going to be our number one. And then just getting the breeding program back on track. Get our boar to where he needs to be, raise a couple gilts for him, and we'll just see where it goes. I'm not building any infrastructure next year. Maybe a pen, like a small pen for just extra storage or something. Like I need to put the boar somewhere. But I don't plan on doing much infrastructure, if any, next year. Just kind of coasting. Like we've been investing and building for the past 4 years, and I need a minute to just, all right, let's get everything back to even for a little bit, and then we'll grow a little more once we get there.
I hear you. Yeah, for sure. Good deal. Well, Kyle, I know we talked about your YouTube channel and your podcast. Do you have any other social media that we can tell people about before I let you go?
I am at Backwoods Butcher 603 on everything. So Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We do have a Fountain account, or not Fountain, Rumble account, but none of my videos is synced yet because it takes 4 months. But yeah, that's pretty much where you can find all me. I'm doing my best to get better at Instagram, but that's a tough hill to climb. And yeah, probably the most active I'm on is TikTok and YouTube.
Cool.
Just if you like dark humor and butchering content, get over there.
There you go. Good deal. Well, man, it was a pleasure talking with you, and glad you had the opportunity to sit down and talk with me, and look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
All right, man. I pray you have a good week. Well, I really appreciate Kyle coming on the podcast, and man, talk about a resource for processing. I think checking out his online stuff, he's going to be a continued resource for the details of processing. I'm sure he's open to questions and all that type of stuff. We'll see how those social media channels play ball with him. Wish him the best of luck when it comes to that. All right, so this is the end of our box set. Again, we need people in the queue, so reach out to me. Send me a note, troy@redtoolhouse.com. We'll get a new batch going. All right, pray you all have a great new year. Take care.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Pastured Pig Podcast. To learn more about our podcast or to submit topics or recommend guests for future episodes, visit redtoolhouse.com.